Welcome back, Empire fans. It's time to come to terms with the craziness of the mid-season premiere. Jamal begins the episode distraught about shooting Angelo. Cookie tries to comfort him by telling him he did all he could to save a life, and Thirsty tells him it was all in self-defense, but Jamal isn't having it. Thirsty tries to assure Cookie that her son won't face legal problems because of the shooting, but her mind is elsewhere. She can't get a hold of Lucius after he sent her a text saying he was going away for a while. Of course, we know that text was probably sent by crazy Claudia, who kidnapped Lucius in the mid-season finale. And, as the next scene starts, we have our answer. Claudia has untied Lucius but now has his non-prosthetic leg chained to a piano. Lucius promises to make her pay, so she naturally shoots him with a tranquilizer gun. "I know who you are," she tells Dwight as he passes out. "And I know exactly what I'm doing." After the title card, a flashback to Cookie in prison organizing the jumping of a prison guard. "I have a few choice words for his raping," she tells her fellow inmates. She approaches the guard in hopes of stabbing him but is grabbed by other guards who swooped in too quickly to have not known about the planned attack ahead of time. For the trouble, Cookie is put in solitary for 3 weeks. Back in present time, Thirsty reveals his cousin conveniently is an orderly at the institution where Andre is admitted. He tells Cookie the institution is the last place Andre was spotted. Thanks to security footage, they see Claudia lingering around the building around the time Lucius was there. They set out with a plan to find Claudia, but they assume that Lucius has relapsed and gone running to Claudia on his own accord. Little do they know, Claudia is attempting to gaslight Lucius, saying they will kill Lucius to prove his true identity is her beloved Dwight and she's got the guns to persuade him to cooperate. Meanwhile, Hakeem is performing with singer Tori Ash, but Cookie tells Becky and Portia not to let them do any interviews because of the Jamal drama. Thirsty and Cookie call in Claudia's therapist to ask if she can help locate Claudia and Lucius, but the doc reveals she, too, has not been able to reach Claudia for a few weeks. They tell her about the security footage and Cookie flat out asks the doc if she has to worry about this bitch. The doc admits that while Claudia is great at helping people, she has gone through her fair share of trauma and can take things too far sometimes. She also reveals that Claudia had worked with an Olympic track star and had moved in with him and his wife, just as she did with Lucius and Cookie. The doc goes on to explain that things took a turn after the wife decided to discontinue Claudia's non-traditional techniques. Claudia made plans to take the Olympian somewhere upstate, but they never made it up there, so the doc doesn't know where to tell Cookie to look for Lucius. Elsewhere in the office, Becky is trying to live in denial that the entire Ziploc baggie of positive pregnancy tests doesn't mean she's for sure pregnant with J Papa's baby. Portia brings her quickly back to reality. A tearful hug between the two in the bathroom ends in an appreciated "I didn't wash my hands" joke. Back in the cabin, Lucius is playing piano and tearfully waxing poetic about how he feels more himself with Claudia than ever before. She tentatively stands on the other side of red line of tape until his tears compel her to comfort him. He goes in for a hug but ends up choking her instead. She kicks him in the crotch and a full-on obsessed-esque battle ensues. Claudia, taking advantage of the experimental sensory-enhancing medications she's injected Lucius with, turns on red floodlights and blasts what is probably the most horrific thing I can think of, all of Lucius' rap songs layered over each other. "That wasn't music," Lucius says, speaking the most truth he ever has on the show. Cookie heads upstate to a cabin Thirsty tells her Claudia's father once owned. To get Jamal out of his funk, Hakeem takes him to see their older brother in the institution. But the reunion doesn't make anyone feel better. Jamal breaks down and admits that everyone telling him good job for getting rid of Angelo makes him feel even worse about the shooting. By the end of his breakdown, the brothers hug it out and vow to be there for each other. Cookie arrives at the cabin and Lucius first tries yelling out to her, but Claudia tells him to get rid of his wife or she'll slit her throat. "She will not interrupt me again," Claudia says, Demi Moore giving her best fatal attraction. Claudia meets Cookie at the door and welcomes her in to speak to Lucius, who is playing the piano. He tells Cookie he wants to be a better man and Claudia can help him do that. But all through their conversation, he plays the same few chords, telling her he's working on new music. Cookie storms off to her car, But as she drives in tears, the matriarch realizes Lucius' new music was actually the love song she had written for him. She tries to call in reinforcements, but there's no signal. Deciding to take things into her own hands, she opens her suitcase, moves aside what looks like an alien medical tool but is probably a hair dryer, and takes out a razor. Stealing from two iconic songs, Lucius tells Claudia he would walk 1,000 miles over broken glass to get back to Cookie. Claudia responds with more sensory overload, but then the power goes out. Claudia goes to find the circuit breaker and Cookie emerges to try and get Lucius free instead. She's hit upside the head by Claudia. When Cookie comes to, she's tied up in a chair, and what starts with Claudia professing her love for Lucius devolves into a fight between Cookie and Lucius about their past romantic indiscretions and, eventually, a couples therapy session led by Claudia. Cookie tells Claudia that Lucius will always love her, which causes Claudia to put a knife to Cookie's throat. But before Claudia can do the deed, her psychiatrist friend pulls up to the cabin. While Claudia is busy hitting the doc over the head, Cookie reveals to Lucius that she's armed with a razor blade. When Claudia returns, it turns into another obsessed-esque battle, this time between Claudia and Cookie. Claudia tosses Cookie. "You can have Lucius, but Dwight is mine," she says before Lucius appears, having broken free, and tackles her. "Kill that bitch," Cookie tells Lucius, but he drives the axe he's wielding into the ground instead. Jump cut to the police taking Claudia away. "I decide who I am, not her," Lucius tells Cookie of his decision. Back at the institution, Andre is having nightmares and comes to the conclusion that he has to tell his family the truth about the bombing at the end of season.